Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are taking a seriously high-octane journey into the absolute biggest motorsport on the planet, Formula One. We're going to decode the intricate rules, the decades of innovation, the jaw-dropping finances, and those split-second strategies that make this sport a total global phenomenon.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our track map for The Explainer. We'll start with the pinnacle of motorsport, shift into decades of innovation and danger, follow the money into the billion-dollar grid, break down the anatomy of a race weekend, and finally, look at how to win a race.
Section 1. The pinnacle of motorsport.
So, Formula One is pretty universally recognized as the highest class of open-wheel racing. But, what does the formula actually dictate for these teams and engineers? It's a term thrown around constantly, but the actual parameters of that formula are what make the sport so incredibly fascinating.
The answer is actually highly technical.
Formula refers to the incredibly strict set of rules and technical regulations that all participant cars and drivers just have to follow. Governed by the FIA, this rulebook dictates everything from engine size and car weight down to the exact millimeter-specific dimensions of the rear wing. Now, it's really important to get this. It is not a spec series where everyone just drives the exact same car. No, it's a brutal, high-stakes design and engineering competition. The teams are handed the formula, and it's up to their brilliant engineers to build the absolute fastest possible car within those insanely tight constraints.
And wow, when they push those constraints, the results are staggering. We're talking about extreme engineering here. These cars are essentially fighter jets flipped upside down. The front and rear wings, along with these massive underbody tunnels, create immense aerodynamic downforce. To put that into perspective, these forces can literally press the cars to the track with up to 5 times the car's own weight. That's what allows them to take corners at just mind-bending speeds. But, as you can imagine, it takes a brutal physical toll on the drivers. They have to endure extreme G-forces for nearly 2 hours straight, relying on incredibly stiff suspensions that transfer every single bump on the road right into their bodies.
Section 2. Decades of innovation and danger. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because the sport has evolved dramatically from its early, incredibly dangerous days. It officially kicked off in 1950 with the first World Championship race at Silverstone in the UK. By 1968, the sport saw a massive shift with the introduction of aerodynamic wings and, crucially, the very first commercial sponsorships popping up on car liveries. But tragically, that relentless pursuit of speed came at a very high cost. In 1994, the death of the legendary Ayrton Senna fundamentally changed the sport forever. It sparked the modern safety era, bringing in narrower tracks, grooved tires, and vastly improved driver protection. Jumping forward to 2014, we enter the highly complex 1.6-liter turbocharged hybrid era, which turned these cars into the most technologically advanced and efficient racing machines on the planet.
Now, throughout all this history, the grid has basically been a battleground of two very different philosophies. On one side, you have the true constructors. These are your massive legacy operations, think Ferrari, who design and build both their own chassis and their own engine right in-house. On the other side, you have what are traditionally called privateers, or customer teams. These are the smaller, scrappier teams that might design their own chassis, sure, but they purchase their incredibly complex engines from big manufacturers like Mercedes or Honda. It creates this absolutely fascinating dynamic of Davids and Goliaths fighting it out on the exact same track.
Section 3. The billion-dollar grid. Make no mistake, F1 is a massive global business. Just look at this staggering number, $8 billion. That's the estimated price that Liberty Media paid back in 2017 just to acquire control of Formula One's commercial rights from its longtime boss, Bernie Ecclestone. And under Liberty Media, the sport has just exploded in popularity, adding these highly glamorous, high-profile races in places like Miami and Las Vegas.
And if you want a piece of that pie, well, good luck. $450 million is the massive upfront payment required just to enter a brand new team into the World Championship. This fee gets distributed among the existing teams to essentially compensate them for sharing the prize money pool. It's a steep barrier to entry, ensuring that only the absolute elite, highly funded organizations get to play on this grid.
But at the same time, F1 is genuinely trying to keep the playing field somewhat level. That's where this $215 million figure comes in. This is the estimated cost cap set for the 2026 season. See, previously, top teams were spending virtually unlimited amounts of money just to gain fractions of a second, leaving the smaller teams completely in the dust. The cost cap restricts how much teams can spend on car development, making sure that ingenuity, rather than just having a bottomless wallet, is what wins championships. Though actually it's worth noting that with driver salaries and marketing excluded from that cap, the true cost of running an F1 team is still absolutely astronomical.
All right, Section 4, Anatomy of a Race Weekend.
So how do all these billions of dollars and incredible machines actually function when it's time to race? Well, it all starts with qualifying on Saturday, which sets the starting grid for Sunday's race. And guys, it's a ruthless, high-stakes knockout format. In Q1, all 22 cars have just 18 minutes to set a fast time. The slowest 6, eliminated on the spot. Then in Q2, the remaining 16 drivers have 15 minutes, and the next 6 slowest are knocked out. Finally, we get to Q3. The top 10 drivers have 13 minutes in a totally breathless shootout to claim the fastest lap and secure that coveted pole position right at the front of the grid. The tension it builds is just incredible to watch.
But recently, F1 has shaken things up a bit with the sprint weekend format. A traditional weekend goes practice on Friday, qualifying on Saturday, and the big Grand Prix on Sunday. But on select weekends, we get the sprint format. This actually moves regular qualifying up to Friday. Then Saturday features a standalone 100-kilometer mini-race, a flat-out sprint where the top 8 finishers score actual championship points, and then Sunday remains the traditional full-length Grand Prix. It's a format designed to give fans highly competitive, meaningful action on all 3 days, which drastically reduces practice time and forces teams to nail their setups right out of the gate.
Section 5, How to Win a Race.
Here's the thing you have to understand. Raw speed is simply not enough. In Formula One, strategy is absolutely everything. The rules mandate that during a dry race, drivers must make at least one pit stop, and they are required to use 2 different types of tire compounds. So teams have to constantly choose between soft, medium, and hard tires. It's this tricky balancing act between the immense sticky grip of a soft tire and the long-lasting durability of a hard tire. Mastering that tire degradation and timing a pit stop perfectly to avoid traffic, or maybe to capitalize on a safety car, is very often what separates the winner from the runner-up.
And then there's the incredibly dynamic track conditions, which are dictated by the marshal's flags. It's a visual language out there, and it requires split-second strategic decisions that can literally make or break a race. A yellow flag doesn't just mean, hey, slow down. It forbids overtaking entirely and often triggers a massive scramble on the pit wall to see if a cheap pit stop is viable while everyone is going slow. Ignoring a blue flag as a back marker, that can result in severe time penalties, completely ruining a lower midfield team's weekend. So these flags aren't just polite warnings, they are immediate strategic disruptors before that final checkered flag falls.
And this brilliantly illustrates what it all comes down to: points. Ultimately, they are fighting for points. The winner takes home 25 points toward the World Championship. Second gets 18, third gets 15, all the way down to 10th place, which earns a single point. And you know, this system is genius because the race isn't just happening at the front of the pack. 2 midfield teams battling fiercely over 9th and 10th place are fighting for points that could literally mean millions of dollars in prize money at the end of the season. Every single position matters.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to really chew on. Formula One is entering a fascinating new era right now. How will this sport balance its historic legacy of extreme, high-powered gladiatorial racing with the very real modern pressures of strict cost caps and the global push to reduce environmental impact? It's a really delicate tightrope to walk, but watching the brightest engineering minds in the world try to solve that exact puzzle, well, that's exactly what will keep us glued to our screens for decades to come. Thank you so much for joining me on the grid today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.